I'm gonna be a sexy grandma.
Welcome to Maker's Hustle, the podcast about turning your passion into a profession. This is episode 20 for Monday, November 28th, 2016. I'm your host, Bill Lavolsi, and here are my co-hosts, Amy Davis-Roth. Hey, Amy.
Hey, hey, hey.
And Jeffrey Moore. Hey, Jeff.
Happy to be here, Bill. How's everybody doing? Hello, Amy. That was a terrible intro. Let me try that again. Happy to be here,
right.
Bill. Hello, Amy.
Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
Use that one, Bill.
All right. I want to take a moment to thank our top Patreon supporter, Luis Gonzalez. So thank you very much, Luis, and everybody on Patreon. Your support means a lot.
Luis, what's up, buddy?
Yeah.
How you been?
If you would like to support the show, check us out at patreon.com/makershustle. Our patrons seem pretty happy so far. We give away stuff, and we give them bonus content and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So you should go check that out.
I just sent out an art print to one of our supporters.
Oh, yeah.
Signed
To Scott.
to Scott. I hope it gets to you before this episode comes out. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
But
Who knows?
yeah,
The
cool.
postal service is pretty fast. I'm surprised. I mailed out a whole bunch of stickers the other day, and they already got there.
Cool.
Like, they made it to England already.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, that was fast.
That
Oh,
is
that's
fast.
very fast.
So, just going to segue that right in. I'm going to talk about what I'm working on this week, which is I've been sending out a whole ton of stickers. Because if you're involved in the certain parts of the maker community, they do this like sticker trading thing. Like everybody gets their logo on a sticker. And when I got started, there was a sign-up sheet on this community that I'm part of, this Facebook group, and they said, put your address here and everybody will send you stickers. And I put my address up there, and stickers just started pouring in. And so I finally have stickers.
Yay!
So I'm taking the opportunity to use my post-Thanksgiving food coma and catch up on all of my stickers.
I would like a sticker.
Yeah, I gave you a whole bunch. I gave you 10 or 15 of them, so that way you can have some, and then you can put some in the boxes with the
Nice.
swag that we send out,
Yeah.
that you send out.
Yeah.
Swagger.
But that's, I also got your t-shirt that you were supposed to get at Maker Faire and then couldn't get.
Oh.
And the thank you note from my wife
It's
for
like
the
Christmas.
necklace.
I was about
Yeah.
to say, Christmas came early.
Christmas
Yeah.
came early at Surly Ranch. How exciting.
So I've been doing the stickers. I released the new video. I made another knife, but this time I just used hand tools to do it. So instead of using a grinder, I just used a file and just sat there and filed at it.
That is so incredibly badass.
Yeah, I'm about to say that.
And then,
like it took a while.
It did, but you know what? Not as long as you think. Part of it was just because it was a very simple knife. It's a marking knife for woodworking, so all it's used to do is draw a very small line on a piece of wood. Because the problem with a pencil is, sometimes the point is thick, sometimes it's thin, sometimes it's lopsided. It depends on how long you've been using it, and you either sharpen it after every time, or you can mark your piece of wood using a knife instead. And that way you have a super thin, very visible line. And that matters a lot when you're trying to cut pieces to fit each other. So it's something that I've always been meaning to pick up, and I went, I just figured out how to make knives, why don't I just make myself one of these? So I did it, and that was cool, and the video just went out, so I'll have a link to that. But yeah, other than that, I've been trying to drum up some more clients, just because, like I said, when the new year comes around, I want to be able to get right back to work. I mean, I'm still working on stuff now, but I'm also catching up on a few things. So I'm making sure that when I run out of current work, I'm not sitting there going, well, now what do I do?
Very interesting.
So that's what I've been doing all week, and eating a lot of food.
Well,
I'll go next. Can I go next?
I don't know if the second thing was as productive because it's going to come around to bite us.
Yeah,
We'll
right.
talk about that in a second.
Yeah. Amy, what
I
about
just
you?
want to jump on your bandwagon because I have been doing sort of the same thing. I am making stickers now. Okay, so I got super excited about politics in the last couple weeks, in case you haven't noticed, and it's annoyed the hell out of some people, my family included. But I have increased the scope of my Patreon to now include science-inspired artwork and political artwork and nature artwork. So periodically, I'm going to be doing politically inspired like paintings, drawings, illustrations, stuff like that, along with all the science stuff that I do and the nature stuff. But what I decided to do was start making stickers of everything because I was, like Bill, so inspired by the maker community and their sticker trading. I was like, oh my gosh, I love stickers. Why aren't I making stickers of my art? So that's what I'm doing now. I'm making all kinds of really cool stickers. The first batches that I've done, one is a science-inspired one and another one is a political inspired one, and if you're a part of my Patreon, I will send them out whenever you want them. You just send me a message and I'll send you a pack of stickers. And I'll start doing that for our patrons too. When you win something, when we do a giveaway, if you put in a request, I don't want to make anyone mad. So if you don't want politically inspired, I'm very left-leaning, in case you haven't figured this out already. Very progressive-minded with my artwork. So if you don't like that, that's totes cool. I can send you some science stuff or send you some nature stuff. But yeah, so my goal now is to make stickers like every month so that I can have like packs of them that I can send out to people for free as a thank you for supporting me or just being awesome. And then I get stickers. And I love stickers.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm super into it.
They're fun.
So you guys can see this one. They're pretty big. I'm making them like 4 by 4 or 3.5 by 3.5. And so they're really nice. And I found a bunch of really cool places that do affordable stickers. So depending on my mood, I either get the really nice stickers, like I made the Maker Hustle from the really nice sticker company, or I found some lesser expensive companies that will, churn out the same amount for half, but they don't last as long. So
Okay.
Ooh.
But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun doing that, and I'm making a ton of stuff, and I've got a bunch of custom orders in the works because it's the holidays, so that's what I'm working on.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
That's cool.
Sounds like
You were
fun.
saying about different sticker vendors.
Yeah.
Because of the kind of people that I tend to interact with, I have to go with the good stickers because
Yeah.
people put them like in their garages and in their workshops and on their bandsaws
Yeah.
and on their welding helmets.
Yeah.
And if they don't hold up, like, okay, funny thing about welding, there's a lot of like ultraviolet light coming off of that. So if those stickers aren't good, they'll start fading like right away. So
Yeah.
I unfortunately have to get the good ones every time I get stickers.
Shout out to Standout Stickers. That's who I used for Maker's Hustle ones, and for my Science is Everywhere sticker that I just did. They do really, really great stickers. I've got one on my little flip thing on my iPad, like my iPad cover, which I have my iPad with me everywhere I go. And I have it on the crease. I have our Maker's Hustle sticker on the crease of my iPad cover that I open it and close constantly. And that sticker, that's how I know they're good stickers, because that has not failed at all.
Was that the only place that you had space?
I'm not. What do you mean?
Why'd you put it on the crease?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, it's a big sticker, and it's like a little iPad. And those things that they fold up so that you can use it as a stand?
Oh, it is oh, that's why. Oh, I thought you meant like the
so they
crease
have a lot
on
of folds. No,
back.
I always cover my iPad case with stickers, and so that, I'm used to seeing stickers that will fail. Oh.
That's my sister.
Hello.
Hi. We just saw Jeff's sister.
Hi,
Oh,
this is
she's
Amy.
beautiful.
This is Bill. We're doing a podcast.
Hey,
Guys, how you doing?
good.
Oh, I like that shirt.
She said she liked your shirt.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
So I don't know what I was talking about.
That was interesting. All right. Well, that's what happens when you do it in a new location, right?
Yeah,
All right.
fun.
So I guess this is where we talk about being adaptable, right? I love how we tie everything in. So this week has been a vacation week. I traveled from New York City to Buffalo, which is about a 6-hour drive. And when I got here, all I've been doing is sleeping. I've been catching up on my rest. I needed to get away. So when I have vacations and I stay in New York City, I end up doing work. And I wasn't trying to do work this time around. And I don't take vacations often. So I actually came to Buffalo. But being here, I ended up doing work anyway. And so this week, I've been working on a new website. And don't worry, Bill, I'm focused on the branding and making sure everything is the same so that it's going to be a lot easier to find me. So
Cool.
I've been working on the website. Also, I've been working on a new logo. And logos are hard, man. Doing research, first names are hard, and then logos are equally as hard. And so I've just been playing around with a lot of things, and me and my wife have been working on just doing a new company that we're trying to get up that is going to kind of house the STEM program that we're doing. And so that is that is what I've been working on this week. The website is looking okay, I'm learning how to use WordPress. Never used WordPress before. Most of my websites are done through Wix, and I have an older website that I did using GoDaddy, which I will never use GoDaddy again. I don't like the website builder. So I'm using Wix. I mean, not Wix, sorry. WordPress. Learning how to use that. And that's been my week. So it's been more of a learning week than a working week, but I've been getting a little bit of work done on vacation, as well as sleeping and eating, like you said, Bill.
I've used WordPress for a long time, so if you need any help, let me know.
I need a lot of help.
Okay.
We're going to talk. I
use WordPress for the Maker's Hustle site. I used it for the One Car Workshop site, but it's a solid
easy.
platform, and you can find plugins for whatever you got to do.
Yeah, I that's the reason why I went with it, is because I looked to see what website you guys were using. So I'm using WordPress. The thing about WordPress that I don't know if I like, and maybe I haven't found the solution to it, and it's out there, but I don't feel as flexible and free to place things where I want. Like, I feel like it's very, like, I put the widgets on and the widgets are there, but it doesn't allow me to put widgets in different places other than the side. And if I'm incorrect, if you can do that, then you guys are going to have to show me how to do that.
Yeah, you have to find a different style. What are they called?
Template.
Yeah, there's like tons of them, and you can scroll through them, and you can actually search with like specific words for what you're looking for, like widgets on the left or something like that.
Okay.
And you can, and then also you can go in behind and mess with it, but we can talk about that off air.
Yeah,
this is a boring conversation.
Yes, it's very, but I feel like I'm gonna have to bust out, and I'm gonna have to scrape off because there is but there is a place for me to do HTML and go in behind the website and on the back end side and edit the website, and I really, really, really don't feel like brushing those skills off. I will if I have to, but if I can find a template that'll allow me to do that, I'm gonna go with that. But I am looking only at free templates right now because, again, I'm poor. Right. So if I have to pay for a template, I'll do that as well. Yeah. I'd rather do that than go into the back end and use HTML scripting, and I don't feel like doing all that. But off of the boring stuff.
That's a perfect segue.
Yes.
So this week, we're talking about adaptability, because sometimes, you might have a plan, but then things don't go the way that you planned them, so you got to change it up. So we're going to talk about how you do that and what that might look like in application.
I have one thing I want to tell Jeff.
Yes, ma'am.
A famous designer once said that a good logo, you should be able to draw it in the sand with a stick.
Draw it in the sand with the stick.
Keep that in the back of your mind when creating a logo. Now, my logo does not follow along that law, but it is good advice nonetheless. So a good logo, you should be able to draw it in the sand, like if you're at the beach with a stick. You should keep it simple.
Yes. Well, that's the hard part, because, I want it to communicate. So, like, I want you to see a logo and it communicate how I feel. But I don't want it to be so complex that you have to think about it, So really, I'm looking at a whole bunch of different things and trying to blend them all together. And I'm going to let you guys see it, maybe put them up first and let people vote on them. I don't know. But I've got about 4 or 5 ideas that I like. But it's a lot. It's a lot more difficult. Usually when I think about things and say, you know what, I want to do that, I get into it and I'm like, oh, this takes more effort than I wanted to put out.
I love all that stuff. I mean, that's my favorite part of business, obviously, is like creating designs. So I like to implement a little bit more. I'm more about implementation than the brainstorming aspect. And I get caught up because I'm a very detail oriented person. And the details, they kind of hang me up, and, it slows progress. So that's why I have to create a whole bunch of different things and then just flip a coin. I'm actually at the point where I flip coins for big decisions, like life-changing decisions. I flip coins. Should I stay married? Flip the coin.
Flip the coin. No, I've done it like
That's
3
terrible.
times today. But when yesterday, and this isn't a big decision, but yesterday we went to go see Fantastic Beasts. And I didn't know if I wanted to see the Fantastic Beasts or the Doctor Strange. I really wanted to see both. I didn't know what I was in the mood for. Because I was like, screw it, leave it up to the coin. Flip the coin. And that's, flip the coin between Cheesecake Factory and Five Guys. Did that today,
that
too.
makes sense to me. That's okay. Those are good coin flips.
Good coin flips. But back to being adaptable. That was our little commercial break. Little commercial break.
Flip a
for flipping
coin. That's
coins.
how you should be adaptable.
Yes.
Well, I think that's it's a good point because there are certain decisions that it's not worth wasting your brain power on, and you have to learn to recognize the difference between the things that matter and the things that really don't.
And it also depends on what kind of business you're in.
Yeah.
For me, I have it's very much a sales-oriented business. I'm very much interested in what customers want from me, and my customer base is constantly changing. And so for me, adaptability means paying very close attention to what the customer wants. And that usually means at events or online, tracking my analytics in terms of what's selling and what's not selling. And I think I've said it before on here. I have a rule that if someone asks me for the same thing 3 times, it ends up in my rotation. So you can remember that. If 3 people want to come at me and ask me for something terrible, I'll probably turn it into a necklace because that's how I keep track of what the customer base wants. And I have to be able to adapt to different trends, different styles, different sayings that are going around in pop culture, stuff like that. Different, what's popular on TV, what's popular in the movies, what are the kids saying these days? I have to pay attention to all that stuff because my business sort of depends on that. Because I sell things that are trendy, yet at the same time sort of traditional. But if I want to keep my business fresh, I have to come out with new designs on a regular basis. And instead of wasting my time, I want to come out with things that people are going to want. So I have to listen very closely to my customer base, what they're saying and negatively or positively or whatever, and then determine where I'm going to go from there.
Yeah. So the adaptability is one of the biggest lessons. I've learned a lot of lessons in the few years that I've been doing business, but adaptability is probably the biggest one. And part of it came from when I was just doing research about business. I never went to business school like most people who are entrepreneurs. I've never, I don't have a background in business. And so I had to do a lot of research as I learned. And one of the things that I learned was something called the lean startup model. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the lean startup model, but that's the way that tech industries are kind of developing their business, developing products. And what it talks about is 3 basic concepts: the MVP, most viable product.
I think. It's. I heard it. Minimum viable product.
Minimum viable. What did I say? I said most viable.
Most.
Sorry, minimum viable. Sorry, it's late. I just ate. Minimal viable product, iteration, and then a pivot. So those are 3 words. We're going to break them down, and then I'm going to tell you about the application and how I've used them. So what the minimal viable product is what is the smallest basic product that you can create that can get you the feedback that you want. So most people, the old way of doing business was you'd spend 6 months to a year developing a product, developing a tech idea in secrecy. You wouldn't tell anybody. And then you would present it to people and say, how do you like this? Right. And it'd be like a shot in the dark. 50% of them say, I love it, I'm going to buy it. And then 50% of them would say, I don't like it, there's something wrong with it. And when you look at the reason why 60 to 70% of small businesses and big businesses fails, because they don't put their resources in the right places. So you spend a year developing a product, people don't buy it, you just wasted a lot of time and money. And so what they started to do with the lean startup model is create something that'll give you basic concepts, give you a basic idea, and then give it to people and let them tell you if it works, what needs to be changed. And then they would either do, if something small had to be changed, we would do what's called an iteration, right? And the iteration is small change here and there to make it improve. Then we come back with another product and ask people, how do they like it? If it was something terribly wrong and the idea was terrible, then we do what's called a pivot. And the pivot is change direction, change strategy altogether. So MVP, minimal viable product, iteration, and then a pivot. So this is how it applies to me and the way that I learned it. So I created a website. I wanted to get into the crowdfunding business because I saw that there was a need for people to support each other and get their products marketed for crowdfunding so that they can have successful campaigns. All right. And so I created a website that would basically share people's product. but that wasn't the first. That wasn't the first version. The first version was more of a community for people, just to share their products. But what I found was in doing that, most people just want to put their product up, say, here, take a look at this, and then think that other people are going to share it, right? There needed to be a system to share it, right? That was going to take the weight off of other people because people weren't sharing anybody's product. And this is something that I learned in doing market research, joining different type of crowdfunding communities and all these other things. And so I was like, there needs to be a different way of doing this. So what I did was, instead of focusing on letting people share their product, I pivoted, right? And said, I'm going to share people's products. And so that gave me a lot more feedback. A lot more people were interested. Actually, a lot of people ended up using the service. And for a time, because I got tired of sharing and I didn't have money to bring other people on. I had people sharing, but it wasn't a benefit. Like, I didn't have enough business coming in to continue paying other people to share. And then I'm a terrible sharer. And so that business folded. But the point is, I did a pivot because what if I would have stayed on that same track, the business would have failed sooner. All right. Because I was able to pivot, because I was able to look at, like you said, Amy, what people are saying, what people are doing, use that data to inform decision making, and then go on and do something based on that decision making. I was more successful. Still didn't last as long. And it wasn't sustainable, but it did allow it to be more sustainable than had I stayed on that initial track of having people share each other's product, which they weren't doing, and it would have been a waste of time. So being adaptable, being flexible, and using basic concepts. Oh, and I'll talk about that. I'll come back, but you guys can, just discuss.
Well, that's it's something that I think we've all noticed is you'll get people who are only interested in plugging their own product. I mean, like, I get comments on my YouTube videos which basically say, hey, good job, awesome, come check out my channel. Which is like, okay, so you didn't watch, you don't care, you're trying to... I don't know when people are going to get this, but you can't trick other people into liking your stuff.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's the same as like when you follow somebody on Twitter and like 30 seconds later you get a message saying, thanks for the follow, come check out my website. Did you know you can advertise for this much money? It's like, okay, block.
Yeah.
That was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
And that is
I don't know when people are going to get it that stuff doesn't work. Like, if you want people to like your stuff, you need to actually provide value. And from what you're telling me, Jeff, is that you start this thing and you're expecting people to share each other's products.
Yeah.
And nobody's willing to put in that value because that's work.
Yes.
And nobody wants to do that work.
Yeah. And it's very easy for somebody, from a company perspective, right? It's very easy because this is something that we all struggle with, right? Because we want people to like our stuff so bad that we're ignorant to the fact that people don't like it or don't value it, or it's not bringing back the type of, it's not getting the return that you thought it would. Right. So I spent all this time making something. I want people to like it, and we want them to like it so bad that it fails. So that is to our own detriment. So you have to be flexible. You have to be able to you have to be first willing to change, but then after being willing to change, you have to be able to change. And that change is going to help you to be more successful than if you just keep trying to beat people in the head with an idea that nobody's willing to pay for. And that is something that I learned early on. And that wasn't even the first time that I actually had to do that. Like that was probably the third iteration of the website. And then I was like, you know what? I have to pivot and get off of, because for a while, I kept trying to figure out how to get people to share their own product. Like I was incentivizing shares, and that would get me a little bit of traction. And
so you were iterating on get people to share each other.
Exactly. Right. But then I had to completely pivot because the amount of value wasn't enough to bring me value. Right? Like people didn't value it enough for me to value that enough. So then I said, you know what? I need to try something different, which did actually give me the results that I wanted. It's just that it wasn't sustainable. So this is like a year ago before I understood sustainability and how to do stuff. Like I literally had 3 people that I was paying share products. Right. And so I was spending a lot more money than I was making. And then on top of like maintaining the website, marketing that I was doing, that's also when I first learned that social media marketing tools suck. All right.
Yeah.
So, and just being adaptable, because I could have kept trying to make that business work. All right. Could have kept doing that. But, just after I realized that it wasn't, bringing in the type of money that I wanted it to, then I had to pivot. Oh, well, really, I just ended it. But let's keep that on the low. that's just between you, me, and our Patreon supporters.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the business that you're describing is kind of something that already exists without being paid for. Although there are a lot of people out there that do pay to, get people to tweet. Like people with large accounts often get offered money to tweet things. But I think Kickstarter and Indiegogo and those sort of crowdfunding platforms already exist. And the reason that they're successful is in part, there's a couple of reasons they're successful. One is because, and this is the same with Patreon, quite frankly, like if the company decides that they like you for whatever reason and they feature you, you're much likely to be more successful. And also, if you can create something that's an idea or a meme of sorts that you can spread, it will spread naturally on its own on the internet.
Well, what I found was, and this is the other thing, and I'm happy I did it because I learned a lot about crowdfunding. And we talked about this at some point, Bill, or maybe we just talked about this offline, but the way that those Indiegogo crowdfunding, the way that you become featured is the speed at which your product gets a certain amount of funding. So if
you know why that is, right? Because they have figured out that there's a formula that if you raise so much money within a certain amount of days, you are like 90% likely to fund by the end of the month.
Exactly.
Like there's an actual I don't know the math equation, but I'm sure someone out there does.
Yeah,
if you raise within 24 hours a certain amount, they know that you're going to fund, and so they can push that, and then it makes their platform look successful as well as the person funding.
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
And
we talked about that on air before. We talked about how you have to have that support network in place. You can't just show up and go, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't work.
You're going to be disappointed.
And it's funny because that was the reason why I wanted to, because there is a need there. How can you create that support network, right? And it's kind of similar to the I Like to Make Stuff group where, you have an idea, you have a support network, you say, here, you guys tell me what you think. And there are groups out there, and I can, we could put links up to the different groups, but there's like Kickstarter Forum, Crowdfund Me Now, and like all these groups. But within those groups, it's so funny because you go into those groups and you see people will post their stuff, and that account doesn't have activity for the duration of their crowdfunding campaign, right?
Yeah,
and
they show up, they post their stuff, and they run away.
Exactly. And so, I thought that because there's a need, right? And that just goes to show, just because there's a need, it doesn't mean that need will bring you value, right? So you have to figure out whatever way you're going to try and address that need. Does that need to be addressed, number one? Is there other people addressing it, number two? And then is there a way to address that need that creates value for you and doesn't cause you to spend a lot of time and resources trying to do it? And that takes flexibility and adaptability.
Or spend a lot of time and resources doing one particular thing that you really care about, which is pretty much what I do.
Yes.
And I try to create my support network by being available to people on Twitter and places like that so that people can actually get in touch with me and talk to me. And that's how I try to build a network. So I guess it just depends on, what you're trying to do. Like, I'm not ever intending to scale up my business to where I'm no longer the main person involved in it. So I guess it just depends. Like if you want to be a corporation, you don't want to do the things that I do, probably.
Yeah.
But
if you just want to be a successful maker, do the things that I do.
Yeah. This is something I've thought a lot about this topic just because of my own personal experience and how I got to be where I am right now. Because, I started off thinking I want to make stuff for a living, and then I quickly found out I actually don't. I don't want to make stuff for a living.
That's a pivot.
At least I don't, I don't want to sit there and crank out cutting boards and go sell them at the craft fair. I don't want to do that because I would jump off a building. I don't have the patience for it.
I do that. That's what
yeah,
I do.
See, that's the thing. But for you, it's like calming and therapeutic, and for me, I don't have the attitude for it. I don't have the personality for it. It just makes me really bored. And I'm not saying that one's right or wrong. I'm just saying if I tried to do your job, I would fail.
Yeah. I mean, I constantly change up my designs, but ultimately I'm doing the same thing over and
Yeah,
over
ultimately
again.
you're making ceramic pieces, you know. So
Yeah.
you make the mold, you draw the art for the ceramic piece, you get the mold for the ceramic piece, you make the ceramic piece, fire the ceramic piece, take it out, paint it, fire it again.
Well,
you know,
gosh, Bill.
like you have a whole
You know
process.
my process really well. And this week I'm making Trump voodoo dolls too by hand. I'm sewing little Trump voodoo
I saw
dolls.
those. I saw those. They're really like lumpy and funny looking.
It's also very time consuming and hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I get your point. It would drive a lot of people insane to sit
Yeah.
quietly and do stuff like I do. Yeah.
So instead, what I started noticing was I got fired up about like the involvement with the community and just looking at this community, and they have this huge amount to offer, but there are these big gaps in what they have, and they need somebody to kind of fill in those gaps. And I started noticing where they were and trying to do my best to like fill them in. Just because, first of all, these people helped me when I was getting started, so I feel like I, want to give back. But also because I can help them, and then they help me, and everybody ends up better off for it. And so now my business is more about finding those holes in the community and kind of plugging them by either providing services
Sexy.
or directing people.
You're like the Aflac duck. You ever see the Aflac duck commercial where the boat is sinking and the water keeps poking up through the holes, and he puts a wing down, and then finally puts his beak through the last hole?
You are a duck.
You are the Aflac duck.
But yeah, it's just a lot of it is, people either don't know what their stuff is worth, or they've been undercharging for years, or they don't know how to market it in a way that will appeal to people. Because I heard, I was listening to MakerCast this week, and the interview was with a guy named Craig Thibodeau, and he's a woodworker. He's been in Fine Woodworking magazine, and one of the things that he said in this interview was, without marketing, it doesn't matter how good the product is because nobody's going to know it's there.
Good point.
And just based on what we're talking about, I mean, Jeff, you're talking about crowdfunding and how people will just drop their link and leave. And Amy, you're talking about adapting to customer demand, and it all comes down to, like, even once you adapt to customer demand, you then have to find a way to express to people, hey, look, here's a new design, or my designs change all the time, or if you want something, let me know and I can make that happen. But like,
I have
those are
to
all
never
things that
shut up, basically.
Yeah. It amounts to you have to never shut up. And, so Jeff, when you see those accounts that open up and they drop their link once, and then for the rest of the month there's no activity, it's like, that's not how it works, guys.
No.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised, like, how many, because there's a lot of different variants of. So there was what I was trying to do, which was provide the service, the promotion service, the marketing service, which was probably a bad idea from the jump, because I'm a lazy guy and I'm not the best marketing. I'm not the best active marketer. But I saw the need and I wanted to get in there. So there's the promotional aspect, and then there was the group aspect. The group aspect was the one that people would drop the link in. But even when it came to the promotional aspect, there was a lot of companies out there that had, it's so funny, that had, basically they paid for their followers, right? So you know how you can go online and pay for followers, and somebody over in India would get you 20,000 followers or whatever.
But they're fake. They're like bots. They're not real people.
Yeah, they're bots.
Yeah.
And then,
So it doesn't do you any good to do that. People.
Exactly.
Don't ever do that. They're not real. They're not real accounts. They're fake accounts. So yeah, all of a sudden you'll have 12,000 followers, but not like 2 of them are real.
Yep. And so even when there was just a big need, but trying to fill that need, it's like you're basically going against human. What is that? The human genome. Like that. People are selfish by nature. We're selfish, and so we just want to gimme. It's not too many people that are givers, right? It's a lot of takers out there. So when somebody has an idea, they go out there and they say, gimme feedback, give me money, back my campaign, but they're not willing to do the same thing. And what I found was, even in doing crowdfunding, if you give to somebody's campaign, they'll give right back, right? And so that was another iteration of my company. Like, I was giving to people, but people were giving. Like, I would give $1 to your campaign, and then people would give me $1. They would share on their social media. They would do a whole lot of different things. And that wasn't how I started. That was just me being adaptable and saying, how can I get this thing going a little bit more effectively? And that was another thing. I learned a lot doing that. just with that one business alone. So going forward, taking those strategies that I learned doing one business, they've helped me in the other businesses that I've done, or even with helping a couple of my friends start up businesses. And I think that is more valuable because it positions you to use these strategies in other places.
Now, something kind of cool that I've been thinking about while we've been talking is we're talking about lean startups, and we're talking about iteration and pivoting, and I'm thinking about how this applies to makers. And this is kind of more related to the traditional like product development model, where you like non-disclosure, and then you sit there for a year in secret and you spend a bunch of money and you come out with a product and maybe people like it. But if you're a maker or if you're an artist, it's a little different. Because if you're an artist, you're not if you're an artist with a strong vision of what you want your work to be, you're not going to like completely pivot onto something different because the people who you've talked to don't want your work. Instead, it's going to be a matter of, okay, how do I communicate to the people who I want to see this work?
Mm-hmm.
Like, then it becomes not a matter of changing your product, but a matter of finding your audience.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
And that's I think adaptability and opportunity are linked in that way. Like, you have to be adaptable in a sense of what am I providing and do people want it? But you also have to, if you have an opportunity to promote your product in a more effective way, you have to recognize it when it comes up and then use it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the part that I've been focusing on with my like new career. I guess I throw air quotes around the word career every time.
I still do the same thing with business. Like I'm still
my
making
business.
money on my businesses, but I'm a businessman, so let's call it what it is.
I've had to reevaluate my target market multiple times over my career, with no air quotes, over the past decade, because I have provided specific designs to specific communities, and then I have moved on to other communities as I have found other things to be more important. So early in my career as a ceramicist, I was very much involved in the skeptical community. So a lot of my design work focused on ideas that were important to that very small, specific community of critical thinkers. But as time went on, I sort of broadened what I was interested in as an artist, and I also wanted to sort of broaden my scope in terms of reaching other markets. And so I've found ways to create designs that would speak to a larger community while still creating designs that have to do with critical thinking. I now will create designs that have to do with humor or politics, like I've mentioned, or, straight science, or just nature, just a tree. People love nature. And with global warming, that's an issue that, I think is important to create art around. So I think a lot of adaptability has to do with finding your people, like you said. And that has been a constant struggle, and also, I guess, a source of inspiration for me, because I like to sit around and think like, okay, what could I come up with next that's going to really get somebody excited, or is going to, upset somebody enough to tweet about it, because even negative publicity ends up being good publicity. In fact, I got talking to from someone yesterday about how I'm going to ruin my Patreon by creating politically inspired artwork, and that I'm going to lose all my patrons, and that I'm super duper wrong about it, and I should really think it over. And I have come from a place where I have been told that I was wrong since the very beginning of my business. And here I am a decade later, still making the same art, right? Sure, the topics vary, but I still make essentially the same sort of stuff. So I've learned that even negative publicity can be good. I think Trump knows this. I think a lot of people know this, that as long as you have something to sell, it's okay to draw attention to yourself, even if it's negative. So that's sort of an interesting topic that maybe we can discuss on another podcast, because I don't know if it's really about adaptability so much as it is just the way of the world. If you have something to sell, and you can get attention, even if it's negative at first, that's going to bring the people that actually like what you're doing to your front door. Yeah. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's definitely, you have to, I think it takes a wise mind to be able to identify these things, right? I think the more you do, the more business you do, the more you learn about business. And the more you learn about business, the easier it is for you to adapt either your product or your market, right? And I think you're only going to get that by experience and by going out and trying different things. And even as you try those different things, understand that even though it doesn't work today, it doesn't mean it doesn't work tomorrow. And just being flexible in your timing. So being flexible with your market, being flexible with your product, and then being flexible with your timing.
Timing, well, that's another that's a huge thing, because like a design that I created maybe 8 years ago that flopped, because I've had a lot of designs that just nobody wanted. I thought they were so great, but I can bring it back 8 years later and people are like, this is amazing, I love it so much, I gotta have it. So timing is a lot of it too.
Well, the flip side of timing is patience, because one of the ways that you need to be adaptable is a lot of people will go into business, or they'll have an idea and they'll want to get it done, right now, like this second, right now, get it done now. And
unless you're already rich, you really can't do that. Like if you're wealthy and you have like a lot of money to throw around, you can absolutely create a startup and have it running like in a month and make, whatever like amazing invention you have come to life. But for most of us, it does really take a long time to build up something solid.
And it can be going well and you can be succeeding, and it still takes a long time. That doesn't mean you're not doing something right. It just means you gotta, one of the ways that you need to be adaptable is, okay, you get to a point where you're making money but not enough, but it's still, the fact that you're making money means that there's something there worth pursuing, and the fact that it's growing means that you're doing it right. It's just you need to either figure out a way to accelerate it, which is way harder than it sounds, or you just need to hang in there and wait, because it will grow on its own. I mean, anybody who's ever started a social media account knows this. Like, you start out with, I was looking through my Instagram feed the other day, and I found a post where I got really, really worked up because I had 50 followers, and I was really super excited about that. I drew out a thing. I was like, 50 followers, thank you so much. This is amazing. And then I looked, and I've got like 1,200 and something today, and I'm like, oh wow, that wasn't that long ago. But you know what I mean, like that. Some things grow on their own.
Can you tell your Instagram followers to follow me, please, Bill? Because I have like not a million literally, but I have a ton of Twitter followers, but like no one follows me on Instagram, and I love taking pictures. Follow me, you guys. Surly Amy.
Well, I'm the opposite of you then, because I have a bunch of people on Instagram and nobody on Twitter.
Twitter is like my home base. I love that. I love Twitter.
Well, I think dang it, I forgot my point. I had a good point. I had a great point.
Follow Surly Amy on Twitter. That's all that matters. And Instagram.
Well, never mind. I guess it'll come back to me if it comes back to me.
So you're talking about how excited you are.
I got something. I was going to talk about how this applies to our podcast. Because this is, this podcast, it's a business. We started this together, and we didn't know how it was going to do, and we tried it out. And some of our earliest supporters came from this Facebook community of like woodworkers and workshop makers. You know what I mean? Because that's where I came from, and that's where I promoted it the most. And a lot of those people listened to it and enjoyed it. But one of the big things in that community is that you do not talk about politics ever. You just don't. You just don't.
I can't not talk about politics.
I know. So what happens is when we decide that the audience that we're seeking is a little bit different than the audience in that group. And it doesn't mean that we're abandoning those people, but it does mean that we are occasionally going to talk about some things that maybe they don't like. And we're going to lose a few of those people, but we're also going to pick up a wider audience because we've decided that our target audience is the broader, like, artist, entrepreneur, startup community beyond just makers and workshops. Not that there isn't a place for makers and workshops, because, I mean, I'm sitting right here.
You are a maker and a workshop.
And I'm going to continue talking about those things, and it is still something that I'm passionate about. But that is not the extent of our audience. And so I've had people from the group get in touch and say, I really wish you guys wouldn't talk about politics. And I explained, I understand that the group is not about politics, but this podcast is not just for the group either. And when I said it that way, they were like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and we're not trying to offend anybody. It's just, we talk about life. And in terms of flexibility, a lot of inventions created by entrepreneurs are created in response to what society wants or needs. And society's wants or needs are often influenced by things that happen politically, or things that happen in society, or things that happen in terms of how rich or how poor you are. And that is going to, determine what needs to be made and at what price point that needs to be made at. So I really think that it would be nearly impossible to turn your back on politics when talking about being an entrepreneur or a maker in any way.
Yeah. If you want to go in that direction, what's the startup that everybody loves to talk about is Uber.
Yeah.
But Uber only exists because the legislation allows it to exist, and there are cities where Uber cannot
They're
operate
trying not
because
to, yeah.
Yeah.
because the whatever government is in place there says, you know what, no, taxis are bust. It was
Right.
like that in Las Vegas for a long time. We only got Uber not too long ago.
And that's the same thing with they're trying to do that to Airbnb out here in New York. They did that last year to I don't know if you guys know about the paid fantasy football, like FanDuel, and I forgot the other one, but I was a FanDuel person and they shut that down in New York City all last year. You don't know how much money I lost on that. But that's
I mean,
besides
go
the
back
point.
10 years and it was online poker. Remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so a lot of the times your business idea or your startup or your product that you want to make or whatever it is inherently has a political aspect to it, and you have to adapt to the world around you. So if we talk about these things, we're not trying to offend anybody. It's just because that's life and it comes up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come up as explicitly if you're a woodworker in a garage somewhere, but for other artists and other makers it happens a lot.
For my work, I'm absolutely influenced by what's happening around me in pop culture and politics and things like that. I have to be fluid and in my work so that I can reach, a larger market. I can't be stale. If I keep making the same designs, it gets boring. And like regulations that are passed by the government are all things that we as makers and small business people have to really pay attention to, because it's going to affect our bottom line and it's going to affect how we do the work that we do.
Yeah, very true.
So sorry.
You ever been to one of those restaurants that hasn't changed the menu in 10 years?
No.
Yeah, I'm
No?
about to say, where would that be? I feel like
Well,
they
that's the
changed
thing.
it too much.
They don't last very long, but you'll go to a place and the menu is the same every single time because they never change anything. And it's like eventually people stop going there. Even if they really like it, even if they really like everything there, you get tired of stuff. So you need to adapt, you need to change, you need to move on, you need to listen to your market. And you can't just, even if you find something that works, that doesn't mean that you're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's going to work forever.
Yeah, it's going to work for now, and that's great. But
Yeah, that was the
you got to stay on top of it.
That brings me to the point. Now I remember what I was going to say, and it's a lot like what you were talking about, Bill. When I first got into the maker community, I thought that what I wanted to do was make robots. I mean, well, I still do want to make robots, but make robots for other people and make it so that you can go and buy my robots. And I thought that would be the coolest thing. And the more I made robots, first, the more I learned about business, but then the more I made it and the more I saw how much back end stuff would have to happen, I realized I do not want to be responsible for this. This is too much. This is too much work. And so what I thought was actually more important and what I discovered more about myself, taking into account that I already knew this because I enjoy doing this in the other aspect of my life, but just teaching people about how to make robots. So I think it's actually more powerful. There's a quote out there. I don't remember what the quote is, but it's like, it goes something like, catch a fish for a person, he eats for a day. Teach a man how to fish, he eats forever.
Isn't that a Bible quote?
I think the Bible quote,
It is?
right?
Yeah, it's give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life.
Oh,
or
I don't
something
know
like
where
that.
that's from. All right.
Yeah,
Well, maybe it's from there.
You know what the add-on, I can't remember, a comedian said this or something, but it was give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for his lifetime. Teach a man to be a fish and he can eat himself. Teach a man to eat himself and fish no longer matter.
What?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm confused and disturbed by that.
Yeah, I'm about to say what.
Then my work here is done.
It went so far left. I was like, alrighty. But going back to what I was saying, like it's cool if I teach you how to build. I mean, if I give you a robot and you learn a little bit from that, but still, there's most of the creativity part, most of the learning, most of the teaching is done already, right? But if I can break it down in a way that you can go out and do that and then bring your thing to the table, whatever that thing is, I think that's more powerful.
It
and
is.
then if I could teach you other things along the way, because even like what I've realized, I've known for a long time, but if you think about the way that we educate kids in school, and this I'm sorry, this is political. If you think about the way that we educate kids in school, it's really a miseducation. We pick and choose what we want them to learn. We basically suppress their creativity because we cut out the art programs, we cut out the gym, we cut out those programs that give kids the ability to get those juices flowing. And I think that's horrible, but that's besides the point. My point is, if I can create a way for kids to be creative and provide that to them, that to me is more fulfilling than going out and making a couple of robots. Because I feel like by virtue of you making your robot, I made a robot.
Yeah, and I gotta say, man, back when we first met, I wrote that article about you for Make, for the website.
Great article, by the way.
The reason that story was so good, the reason why your story is so compelling is not because you're making robots. It's because you had no idea how to make robots and you taught yourself how to do it.
Which was sucky.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was really smart of you. This is a perfect example of what we've been talking about for the last hour. This is a perfect example of adaptability, okay? Yes. You realize that what's compelling is not, here's a kit for a robot. What's compelling is, I'm going to teach you how to build the robot that you want, not the robot that I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you don't have to know anything about robots to get started. You don't have to know anything about electronics. You don't have to know anything about 3D printing. Jeff is going to take you through the whole thing.
Yes.
Because Jeff didn't know how to do any of it either, and he got there, so you can do it too.
Yes. And I am no genius. I like to think I'm a genius, but I'm not. I'm no genius.
You're
I think that, and that also, it shows by you learning this, how to make robots, all right? Or at least the process and the stuff that goes into it. The skills that you develop, you're going to be able to use in other aspects of your life. And I'm trying to make people better, and that I think was the change that I made. So before I was trying to teach people, I was trying to make robots. I was like, yeah, this isn't what I want to do. Then I realized I want to teach people how to make robots. But then as I went on that journey and learned all of the things that I didn't learn before, because now I'm basically, before I thought I knew how to make robots. Now I can break down physics equations and things that go into it on the back end. And now the way that you learn that, not necessarily what you learn, but the way that you learn and the way that you use these different things, it forces you to really pull on a lot of different things, which makes you a better person, a more equipped person, able to think critically, problem solving, all these different things. And I think that to me is where I'm at now. And that was I guess this is more of an iteration. That is the iteration that I had to make, because the first goal that I had wasn't something that I thought, and looking back now, is something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Like you, Bill.
Yeah.
This is why we click so well, because we have a lot in common.
Yeah. Even though we come from, completely different backgrounds and, we have like zero in common except we make stuff and we learn things and we ended up doing something we didn't think we'd be doing.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about all this.
Yeah. I love this podcast.
Yeah, me too.
I do. I love you guys.
Oh, we love you too, Amy.
So, how do you feel about recommending stuff this week? You got something good?
Ooh,
Amy,
you
owe us. You owe us.
I know last week I sort of blew it, so I brought two things to the table. So the first recommendation is Duolingo. I don't know if anyone has not heard of this, but it's a free language learning app that will teach you any language practically. They've added a whole bunch, okay? Like, I learned Spanish, or I am in the process of learning better Spanish from Duolingo. It's completely free. It's amazing. The language learning software apps used to cost upwards of $300 to learn a language. Yeah, but now you can get Duolingo, and it'll teach you anything. And they just added Russian, and I'm just saying that maybe you might want to learn a little bit of Russian if Trump stays in power, okay? So get Duolingo, download the Russian app, get learning, get hacking. Speaking of hacking, that's my second thing that I want to bring to the table. I have a good friend who is in charge of social media for a large corporation. She has been nagging at me in an adorable way, and I'm finally listening, to take care of cybersecurity on my computer and on my devices, because there's been an awful lot of hacking going on all over the place. So a really great app that you can get is called One Key, and we will put a link to it, and it's a little bit pricey. I believe it costs $60, but you can get a free trial of it. And what it does is it helps you to encrypt all of your passwords.
Do you mean, sorry, Amy, do you mean 1Password?
Oh yeah, what did I say?
You said One Key.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's thanks Bill for correcting me on that. It is One Key, right? No, One Password.
No, it's 1Password.
One computer.
1Password. One
okay,
Password.
One Password. One, Mike 1. camera one. So 1Password, and it's really great. So it encrypts everything, and I'm not really clear on how it works because I'm going to have a meeting with my friend over the weekend who's going to walk me through it. But essentially, it helps you to encrypt your hard drive while saving all your passwords in a very safe way where your data is never stored on somebody else's device. So that application never stores any of your data, but it helps you keep a password that you have to have like two-step verification to get to. And I don't understand it all completely, but it's really sounds like a really great and easy alternative to saving all your passwords and protecting your hard drive from ever getting hacked into. So if someone were to walk in and steal your computer, or if the government decided that they were going to try to hack into your Gmail and take everything, this will protect you from having that happen. So I really recommend getting some cybersecurity, and that is a good alternative. So those are my 2 recommendations. I hope that makes up for flaking out last week.
No, that's good. Can I add something to your recommendation?
Yeah.
If you have an Apple computer, there's already a utility there that you can encrypt your hard drive. And you should do that.
Yeah, you can, but this makes it even more secure because my friend said that same thing too. She's like, yeah, you can go to security settings. And one simple thing that you can do right now, even if you can't afford to get that app, is to, for sure, put two-step verification on everything that you have.
Yeah.
Put it on Dropbox, put it on Twitter, put it on, your Facebook. Everything should have two-step verification right now.
I'm just saying, if you can't afford the $60 for 1Password, you should at least. I know there are open source encryption alternatives for like Windows and Linux and whatever, but I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not going to speak to it. But if you have a Mac and you're running, OS 10, whatever, you can encrypt your hard drive just right now. The 1Password stuff is better, but this will work if you don't have the money or you can't spare it right now.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go next. Mine is short and sweet. I don't know if you guys heard of this, but it's a show called Mars on Nat Geographic. And it is, I love space. And so it is I don't know how many part series, but it's a part series where they kind of blend real life, what's going on, what has happened in the NASA and with space travel right now, or what we're trying to do, and then what we would like to do. And so the story takes place in, I believe, 2033, where they're up to episode 3. Episode 3 will be coming out on Monday, but they landed on Mars and they have to kind of do all of these different things. One guy just died. Spoiler alert. So it's a great series. I'm actually enjoying it. And I think, people it's the reason why they're doing it is because they're trying to encourage people to be interested and get, the public interested in, just traveling to Mars so that we can kind of get funding for the Mars project so that sometime in the near future we can put a man on or a team on Mars. And so, if you guys are interested, check that out. It comes on Mondays at 9 o'clock. I think it's 9 o'clock on National Geographic Channel. They bring in all the public intellectuals like Neil deGrasse Tyson. They have Elon Musk on there. They have a bunch of other scientists. They talk about the different challenges that they have to face. It kind of bounces between what they're working on, and then they'll fast forward to where they are in 2033. They had a couple of flashbacks where some of the astronauts were kids. So it's a great series. I'm really enjoying it. So that is Mars, just Mars.
Cool.
And how do I find that on Netflix?
Oh, sorry. I got something for you offline that can help you to watch that.
Right,
Tell you what, if I find a way for anybody to watch it online, I will put it in the show notes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
So by the time you hear this, go check the show notes, and if it's online, you'll know.
Yes.
Cool.
So my recommendation for this week is Daryl Jones of Dreadnought Woodshop. Now, Daryl's based in Florida, and he's been woodworking for about 20 years, but just the stuff that he does is really cool. He made it out here a little while ago. He came by the shop and had a visit, and we got a picture together, and that was very cool, and it was nice talking to him. I really love it when other people who do the kind of stuff that I do stop by, or I get to meet them, which is why I like going to Maker Faire so much. Because you end up making connections with people like Jeff and Amy, who, even though, we never would have crossed paths in life.
Probably
Never.
not.
It was destiny,
I'll never
Bill.
go to Vegas.
Bill, it was destiny.
There's
But I'm
for
just
me
saying,
in
it's not
Vegas.
like we're going to run into each other because I'm making ceramics or Amy's building robots. You know what I
I
mean?
don't know, man.
true.
We were meant to be together, the three of us.
The stars were in line. We're aligned.
But it's, just, you should go check out Daryl. I like, what he's done with his YouTube channel. He's starting to be a little more active there. He's super active on Instagram, though, so
Ooh.
you should check that out.
Hey,
And,
Daryl, follow me. Surly Amy, what's up?
And Jeff, I think you talked to him because he wanted to get into like some education workshop type stuff.
Oh, that's Daryl.
Yeah, that's Daryl.
Oh, you should have said that, Daryl. Yeah, that's my guy.
I thought you were going to catch on.
Well, I didn't know.
You sleep at the switch, bro.
There's a lot of people out here named Daryl. I know 5 Daryls. There's a Daryl down the street from me. So
yeah,
Jeff's
well,
got
we're
a
only
lot
talking about
of
this
friends.
Daryl.
He's the most popular one of us all. He's got a lot of friends.
It's funny. They used to make fun of me as a kid, though. I used to have no friends as a kid.
Oh. All right, well, if anybody wants to be friends, where can everybody find you?
All right. Well, if you're looking to make a new friend, as I am always looking to make new friends, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at more_4. And you can find me on Facebook at more4 with the F being the number 4. And I'm working on a new website, which is going to link everything so that you can find me the way that you find everybody else. And
nice.
So that will be coming. Hopefully by next week, I'll have that up and running.
Very nice.
And you can find me at Amy_4 more at all.
That's not nice.
.net. No. You can find me pretty much everywhere as at Surly Amy. And you can find me on Patreon at Surly Amy. Hey, get those stickers. If you sign up for $1, I'll send you all these stickers. And then you can find me pretty much everything else I do through surly-ramics.com. It's a portal to all the stuff I do.
And you can find me on social media at One Car Workshop, or you can go to onecarworkshop.com. I link to everything that I do there when I remember to update it. It's funny, my own website is the one that I'm the worst about updating. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook all the time. I have those totally worked out. When it comes to actually posting on my website, I tend to be a little bit behind.
Shame.
So shame on me.
Shame.
Did you just ring the shame bell?
Yes, I did.
Ding.
Okay, but I'm not taking my clothes off.
Oh,
Whew.
I forgot that was a part of it.
He already has his clothes off, you guys. You just can't see him.
Yeah, that's why this is an audio podcast. So that's it for this week. If you're listening to the show on iTunes, please take a moment, leave us a rating, and tell us what you think. We've gotten a few more ratings and reviews since last week. We're back to 5 stars. Thank you, everybody. Love it. Love the feedback. Really do. Even the not so nice stuff. I'll still read it and I still appreciate it. So keep it coming. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Makers Hustle. If you want to ask a question, give feedback, or suggest a show topic, you can contact us through social media or send an email to info@makershustlepodcast.com. Once again, thank you so much for listening. We're really glad you're here. And while this show might be over, the hustle never stops.
Put a little bass in it that time.
Yeah, nice. See you next week, everybody.
I think I'm going to do it differently every week. Maybe next week I'll sing it.
Yeah.
The hustle never stops.
Never.